Yes, I am trying to connect a Japanese series to Black Posthumanistic thought. Let's go. I really enjoyed the Asura Japanese show, and the Asura Japanese show, it's, in a couple words, it's a modern take on a family drama series called like Asura, but the show is about four sisters in 1979 Tokyo who discovered that their father's having an affair, or their father's affair, and the emotional fallout that follows all of that. And I was really interested in connecting that with Philip Butler's on Demon Time, Time Dilation, Elapsed Time, and the End of the World. And I'll also link this below. But he starts off strong, and I'll be quoting him a lot, with the fact that the end of the world is over stigmatized. Meaning that the end of the world doesn't mean have to be, like, it doesn't mean that it has to be like the end of the earth per se, like in a planetary sense, but the end of a particular way of life over others, that kind of end of the world. And the end of the world he talks about is the end of an anti-Black world, leading to as many Black worlds that could ever exist or be as we end those anti-Black worlds and realms. So in his essay, he uses Demon Time to provide language and like a framework to normalize Black livingness, Black ways of life, Black embodiment. And it acknowledges the ways that Black bodies and modes of being often live in direct diametric opposition to normative Western conceptions of ways of being or embodiment. And so what I'm gonna do is I'll talk about Black posthumanism straightly, like out of his text, and then I'll talk about the confluence of Black and Japanese, because like where like why did I even want to connect that? But then I'm also going to talk about time dilation, get into demon time, like what is this, like why are you trying to connect demon time, which is the slang that we kind of see, to this concept of like this theoretical concept of Black posthumanism, and then kind of like how it ties in to the series. Stay with me. So first, we're going to start with Black posthumanism. So Black posthumanism, it's a foundation, it's an apparatus rooted in Blackness, and it's very anti-humanist, meaning very anti-human, and even more so as we're referencing demons or time, all of this, specifically demons in that common connotation, is seen as anti-humanistic, and Blackness might also be just as in blatant opposition to time as well. I mean, if you think about it, we do have that term, like, or you heard those terminologies in terms of like, or phrases like Black people time, or colored people time, like CPT, like that, like you've heard these different things about time. And Black humanism puts Black posthumanism, it questions the notion of human, because as we know it, there is a huge, what Philip Butler kind of takes as chasm between our conception of humanity, like what we think it is, and the complex knowledges that we continue to produce that implies that humans don't exist, but people do. So human becomes, in Black posthumanism, then an idealization, a specter, a ghost, a being in European mythology. Boom. So now connect Black and Japanese thought. So both Black posthumanism and certain strands of Japanese thought have kind of grappled together with what we see as colonization and industrialization in the world today. So dealing with the expansion of Western modes of being, but also thought, philosophy, and the imperialism that follows with that. So in the case of Black posthumanism, this involves critiquing technology and critiquing how technology and racialized bodies have been controlled and framed. And they often see the future, like you would see with Afrofuturism, you often see Black identity pushed beyond the constraints imposed in contemporary reality of colonial histories and racism. So think Octavia Butler, for example. And similarly, we have Japanese thinkers that also reflect on Western colonialism and industrialization and imperialism and how that's impacted their societies through the lens of technological progress, but also modes of being and changing their nature of ontology, which is ways of being, traditions, culture, in a post-industrial world, if you will. So on a more philosophical level, there are similarities between Black posthumanism and certain Japanese philosophical traditions that approach the notion of being, becoming, and non-being. So both tend to reject the fixed binary definitions of humanity that you see proposed by Western colonialism and industrialization. And instead they advocate for more fluid and expansive conceptions of existing or being. And this aligns with the post-human condition, the post-human thought I'm trying to bring to you today to connect the series to what I'm thinking. And it aligns with overall moving beyond anthropocentric or racially essentialist views of what it means to be human, meaning moving beyond what we think it means to be human. To explain time dilation, I'll quote Philip Butler directly. Time dilation is the phenomena where the experience of time passing happens differently depending on the factors concerning who or what is experiencing time. Essentially, it is the idea that time is uniquely experienced in the bodies experiencing it. We can imagine that this relationship is impacted by certain aspects of the self or of the being, including emotions, gender, sex, race, culture, ability, height, weight, strength, and age. So Philip Butler was talking about the fact that anti-Blackness is a problem with time, and he calls into question not only what time is, but which time is it referring to. Black people exist in a perpetual state of alienation and must embark on the seemingly impossible / never-ending path of disalienation with oneself through an upending of a dependence on social time, meaning that Black people continue to operate in time outside of time. We've called this maroon societies. We've called this fugitivity, unfixedness, a place where you're living outside of time and civilization because your sense of being is yearning for something that doesn't exist in the here and now in the society that was built. So, as I said, Blackness is living through a different type of time, a different type of dilation, dispensation. So how can we understand Blackness in relation to itself? how does one locate something that can't be found, that doesn't exist, that doesn't have a place? So Black Posthumanist responds as a way to look, to see blackness reflected in the world, to see it in time. As I stated before, Black Posthumanism is anti-humanism, and it welcomes plural potentiality. Blackness can inhabit and be at the same time, in different senses of time altogether at the same time. So what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? It means that if you're playing an instrument, you're in a different key. It means that if you're singing, you're also possibly within the melody, but harmonizing differently, harmonizing in a different way to make the same melody. So basically, the cadence of blackness rests in the demonic is what Philip Butler proposes. Demonic being unrecognizable, not normal, not concrete, not predictable, not knowable. And all of these factors make such things anti-human. It's a refusal to agree to what is normal and current and known and expected and legible and anticipated. So what I'm trying to say is, to wrap this up, is time dilation is showing you that blackness it alludes to time outside of time, a being outside of time. And because you're outside of time, because people don't know you, because you can't be known, now you're demonic. The term demon time came into prominence during the coronavirus pandemic. Regardless of where it's referenced, demon time tends to connotate late night activity, often slated to take place past 10 p.m. The insinuation is that what constitutes demon time are the elements of what should be kept in the dark or hidden out of plain sight. Chaotically creative or an unpredictable activity. This could be celebration, this could be violence, this could be anything that might connotate self-expression, self-determination, as well as the accumulation of status or worth by means that may not be acceptable in the public eye. Catherine McKintrick notes in in Demonic Ground, that in mathematics, physics, and computer science, the demonic tends to connotate a working system that cannot have a determined or knowable outcome. So, Demonic Ground, her saying throughout this book that she plays off of Sylvia Wynter's works, is that demonic ground is something that exists outside of what is known. In physics, this is dark matter, this is dark energy, this is dark fluid. Similarly, blackness, black bodies, and black femininities can neither be understood or controlled, as according to the essay that I'm talking about with Philip Butler. So, and it does that because it's like not within the confines of the binary that whiteness emanates. So, demons are often portrayed as menacing, unsettling, and religious and philosophical traditions warn of the dangers of referring to, but also engaging with demonic activity. Individuals who tend to struggle internally often paraphrase that situation as discussing as wrestling with or struggling with their own demons. And what Vivian Salehana does is she turns Toni Morrison's beloved character, Margaret Garner, to Seth, a female rendition of the masculine god Seth from Egyptian mythology. And this god Seth, he is one of the oldest Egyptian gods, originally worshipped by Africans living in Upper Egypt. And when conquered by Lower Egypt, the god Seth was transformed into a devil, thought by philosophers to be the founding of the mythological legend of Typhon the Greek demon, which later becomes the devil in white Christianity mythology. And so what is interesting is that this Seth or Set, this god, is supposed to be the god of war and chaos, and he's afforded a lens through the woman. So one god that also is supposed to be connotated with chaos or like war or these storms, it's supposed to be Eshu, which is in Yoruba tradition. And you can, in that tradition, this god can permit chaos or subdue it. And all of that will be done to bring about something new. And so, within what you see as white supremacist religiosity thought is that human is centered. It's not God or the divine. And so Black posthuman thought as anti-human ushers in embracing the role of the demonic, meaning embracing existing beyond what we think is human and human alone. And then that in doing so, we expand and move towards Black realities, Black physics, and the cosmology of all of that, and what could be and should be and is that isn't postulated in European mythology.
If we look at the Rig Veda, one of the oldest Indian scriptures, actually it's probably one of the oldest scriptures from around the world, the term Asura is used to describe a chief, somebody who has a fighting force at his disposal, or somebody who could wield Maya or magic. The term was actually used to describe either a human or a god, but an important thing to note here is that it was never used in the plural form. That is, there was never an organized group of people called the Asuras. Now, a lot can be said about the meaning and origin of a Sanskrit word if you break it up and look at its individual components. One way to break up the word Asura is Asura. Asu means life power or spiritual. So an Asura was somebody who possessed Asu. This could describe somebody who's maybe immortal or had the ability to heal. Another way to break up Asura is Asura. Is a Sanskrit prefix that means not, just like un in English, like you have fair and unfair. But in this case, it happens the other way around. As Asura starts to have a negative connotation in later scriptures, a new word, Sura, is coined to express the opposite of that. Where Asura starts to become the personification of darkness and evil, Sura became the personification of light and divinity. And henceforth,
So the husband goes, these women are like the Asura. Asura being this Indian god, like you don't know if they're on good terms or not. And I was just like, throughout the series, you see them like you see like their personalities and their differences and stuff, but I'm like, you don't ever see that they're not. I feel like you can have your differences and be like, and still be like united, like you know, sororities, like, you're not friends with everybody, but y'all are in that sorority, okay? You're in the same one. They're sisters. Like, if anything, you want to know you're standing with them, especially when they come together, especially that. Yeah. So I really hope that if you didn't get it yet, you're getting it now. That with the reference to women being referred to a god that was also referred to as a demon, and like in the show Asura, I was trying to get back to not only the concept of demon time and time dilation, but the fact that blackness relates to the fact that we're moving in time outside of time. And I feel like for women to constantly be compared to or like moved in reference to as gods, like there's something there that we need to talk about that we don't talk about, because women act a certain way or unpredictable, or you can't really know them. They're demonic to you. So again, I'll just wrap this up. Demon time, it's imperative because of the unpredictable, uncontrollable nature of black behavior. So it leaves people undone. This is what people have been referring to as, demon time. What Philip Butler is talking about when he's talking about demon time. It's an embodied space-time that exists outside the known reality. It's possible that it could lead to the end of the world as you know it, because we're not moving in a way that you know this world. And women continue to show themselves as moving in ways in which you don't know them, in ways that transcend what this world may constitute. So I'll end with this little quote from AV Club. The show doesn't dwell on whether the men in this story are right or wrong, because it's not about them. It's not about men. It's about the women who, like Asuras or deities, as stated in the show's closing moments in that little clip that I was trying to explain, that women can embody and do embody the virtuous and the scornful. To get back to Black Posthumanism, there's plural potentiality. We contain multitudes. In the words of Manifesto, your creation, act like it. It's all symbolic, is what somebody else was saying. People say that when it comes to symbols, you can't take them as literal, but in this case, you're Asura too. Peace.